Thank you so much for having me. I mean, I'm usually on that side of things, so to be here today is incredible in New York City. Did anybody travel here to actually, is anybody not from NYC? A couple people, wow, well, welcome. Thank you, B&H, thank you, Melissa, for having me. Today I'm going to share the things that I've learned so far in my career, and they are not technical. I didn't learn them in a book, not by a robot. There's things that nothing a manual could have taught me, and you can't buy it in a store, so I'm very sorry, B&H. What I'm here to talk about is the most essential things that you need, plus one little bit of special sauce that will make your photographs, I'm telling you, leap off the page, or I guess the screen, if you're, I guess I should be more modern and say the screen. But before I get started and jump into food and celebrities and all of it, I want you to know that my photographs are very labored over. They are planned. I take a lot of time to execute them. Everything is shot with great intention. And that all comes from the very basis, which is you must have a strong foundation. If you're a +1 today and you're not into photography and you're a chef or whatever your field, I do believe you need to understand your craft because without that, you can't add the extra ingredients. How did I get mine? Well, I had so many hours as an unpaid internship. I worked for amazing photographers. Richard Avedon was one of them. I mean, it would be, I learned from him, sit down and have lunch with your subjects if you can, or set up a little area and show them your work. Then you're kind of double showing off. So I worked and I practiced and I practiced. And all of that showed me what I want to be and what I didn't want to be, which I thought was essential because remember, when I started taking pictures, I had a camera with film in it. There was no AI, no computers, no phones with filters, and again, like I said, definitely no AI. So let me introduce myself for those of you who don't know. I have my fan group here, my friends who do know who I am. But for the people that don't know who I am, my name is Melanie Dunea. Over the course of my career, I have photographed many, many celebrities. Chloe Sevigny, John Leguizamo. Most of these are commissions. Poor Sally Field in this picture, it was like 30 degrees in Malibu, and somebody was standing right off-site next to her with a jacket so that they could throw it on when she started complaining. And I just said, remember, you were Gidget, weren't you? Like, didn't you do everything in a swimsuit? Oops, I'm going the wrong way. Sorry, clicker, novice clicker. Bernie Mac, this was for New York Magazine. They asked me, what can you do for our fall preview for a funny guy? And I thought, you know what, for a funny guy, let's zip up his mouth. That'll show him. These two shoots just happened this year. Kevin Bacon and Minka Kelly. I did have to confess to both of them that not only have I not seen Footloose, but I also never saw Friday Night Lights. I stuck this picture in for Melissa because she said you have to include Heath Ledger and talk about the day that you guys just roamed around the Chelsea Hotel and he got high and you didn't, but sorry, this has got to be a PG talk, doesn't it? Without actors, as well as actors, there have been choreographers, Taylor Swift, I've been lucky enough to photograph her a few times. She's absolutely lovely, Kenny Chesney. Some that weren't so lovely and maybe don't behave as well as they should. Some icons, writers, which is also one of my absolute favorite topics. I love an author, and apropos to now, tennis players, I've actually only photographed one cake maker. I'm lucky that my work has been published in many places. It's been on a tequila bottle. It's been in Times Square on a billboard. Trust me, I went and had my photograph taken a lot in front of that. Book covers, TV shows, they flash it, they say credit by. I've photographed a movie, and I've also done 5 of my own books. I always get that count wrong, including 2 books about chefs. So people often do introduce me as a food photographer, which is an interesting thing. I'll take it. You introduce me, I'm good. Lots and lots of chefs over the years. Martha Stewart, that was just shot last year. Rachel Ray, one of my favorites, I was just talking about her. And, just heaps and heaps of chefs. So now that I've introduced myself, let me get on with it. Let's talk about the picture that everybody really wants to talk about, the bone. When you look at this picture, what do you see? Well, you can see a man standing there. He's naked. He's got a bone in front of him that, by the way, I had bought like 10 minutes before I got to the studio at the local butcher. He has a cigarette butt pointing. You can see, I'm gonna use my laser pointer. Oh, wow. Okay, so right there, he's holding a cigarette. Did you know that? He actually, this is before retouching was in my life, you can see the indentation of the socks on his legs. So that makes you think, this picture was just taken. He stares directly into the camera, provoking us. This man has confidence. How did I pull this photo off? Well, this shoot, just some background, was for one of my 2 books about chefs called My Last Supper. I got this idea and a book deal to photograph 50 chefs, so it was 100 in total, if you're following, and ask them what their last suppers would be, what they would eat, what they would drink, who they would be with, who would clean up, what would the music be. And I thought with those questions, we would sort of understand the mind of a chef. Tony had told me, my last supper is bone marrow, and that was it. And I thought to myself, bone marrow? How on earth am I gonna show bone marrow? So I decided, okay, I know. I've got to just photograph him naked, provocatively, with a bone in front of him. How am I gonna tell Tony this idea? Well, I had photographed him many times, and I thought, call him up. Tony, hey, I have an idea. Melanie, I'm good. No, really, are you sure? Are you sure you're okay? Because this photograph is gonna be noticed. I trust you, he said. I repeat, I trust you. Fast forward to the day of the shoot. I always like to get to the studio 2 hours early, or someone's home, or I want to be prepared, right? So I go to the studio, and I'm walking around, and nothing is working. The light's too severe. The background is this gray I chose. I don't know why I chose gray. I mean, it's so random. I'm pacing around, and I see the bloody wrapper that I had wrapped the bone in, the one I had just picked up and taken to the studio, and behind it was the brick wall. Ta-da! Look, see, right there. Be nimble, be flexible. Goodbye, backdrop. Let's shoot him against the brick wall. Tony texts me, I'm here, but I need some liquid courage. Hey, let's go next door, I say. Let's have some tequila at the local Mexican restaurant. I faked drinking. He took a few shots. We joked around. He's like, how's the book going? And I said, listen, it's going. Like Gordon Ramsay was really tricky. I asked him to smile, and this is what he did. Okay, so I was telling him about my trials and tribulations, and then I said, are you ready? And he said, I'm ready. So we went into the studio, and it was time. He changed into his sarong. I definitely thought where I was going to keep my eyes, which was between his eyes and my eyes. I gave him a smile that showed trust, confidence, friendship. He took off the sarong, he looked at me, and I said, I've got you. Because of this trust, Because of our exchange, I knew that we were going to be okay. I had my back. We had each other's back. We trusted each other. We were in this together. So no matter where you are, if you're naked in a photo studio in New York City, or you're in Africa with an elephant or a panda, trust. Watch and trust who you're around, because the rapport with your relationships is absolutely everything. The Crooner, sorry for my messy papers. So when I photographed Tony Bennett, RIP, he just passed away, we were shooting at his house, which is always a little bit worrying because you come in there, you've got a photo assistant, you've got some equipment, and it just feels intrusive. I would rather just set up, and then you come and I go, ta-ta, it's time to photograph. So we removed our shoes. You always have to take off your shoes when you go to someone's house. I mean, it's kind of protocol. I scoped out a spot for my 4-foot backdrop. The entire studio, this was actually his painting studio, was full of memorabilia. And I suppose all of us, being photographers or storytellers, are snoops. So it was hard for me actually not to look at all this stuff. There was a letter from Bill Clinton. There was like something from Mother Teresa. Focus, focus. So I had 3 scenarios in mind. I find for me, in my preparation, if I have 3 ways I'm gonna photograph somebody, one of them's gotta work. It's kind of like the law of averages. So I'm picking out the backdrops, we're taking our Polaroids, and in walks Tony Bennett. He's got his turtleneck on, he's an hour early, and he is ready to go. Okay, Mr. Bennett, come over here, sit by the window. He sits down, he's looking at me, he's like, uh-huh. He's not into it. It's not a picture for him. It's not working. So, Mr. Bennett, oh no, I skipped ahead to the next slide. Spoiler alert, he jumps in front of the backdrop. We take 3 or 4 or 5 photos, bang, my camera falls. Shit. He looks at me, I look at him, we look at the camera, and he says, well, I guess this shoot is over, isn't it? And he walks out. Takes me a minute to collect myself. What I would have liked to have said is, Mr. Bennett, I always travel with 2 bodies. We could have carried on the shoot, but off he was, and thank goodness I already got the picture that I needed. And in fact, I was rushing to catch a plane to photograph Kenny Chesney in the Caribbean, so I quickly called a rental house. I said, somebody meet me at LaGuardia, actually it was JFK, with another body, here we go. The moral of that story, be prepared. Technically be prepared. Don't bring 1 camera body because you might be in trouble. I call this shot Wonder Woman. This was my first and only fashion shoot. Actually, that's not true. I did shoot a wedding dress once, which comes with its own set of dreadful, dreadful challenges. This was for a book for a fashion designer called Carmen Mark Valvo. He asked me to take some pictures to sort of zhuzh up his book. I agreed, but I also thought, like, what are the rules? Are the clothes meant to look a certain way? Like, what am I supposed to do? So we started the shoot, and as I took the pictures, the model like knew what she was doing. The way she moved was extraordinary. But I wasn't conveying the moment. And I'm like, what are the rules? Fashion photography, are the clothes meant to look good? What should I do? And then I thought, first of all, Melanie, stop looking at her face. It's not about her face. This is about a feeling. This is about movement. This is about a moment. So I said to my photo assistants, turn off the flash, turn off the flash. Let's just use the light that's right here. I grabbed my tripod. This was working. wow, this worked. This is like, I could feel it. This picture was like powerful. It showed his clothes. It reminded me, forget the rules. You don't always have to follow the rules. Be nimble. Be in the moment. Throw the stuff away. You've already got that foundation. I call this shot Wonder Woman, and it is a reminder to me, a constant reminder, to be nimble, to be flexible, and to turn that frown upside down. The balloon. Well, this one, whoo-hoo, I hope you're, buckle up. Comedians, this is Steve Martin, are meant to be kind of depressive, don't quote me, but you know, a little bit like not funny. And it's also a lot of pressure to sort of think, I'm gonna be funny, does he think I'm funny? So my commission was to photograph Steve Martin. I knew a few things about him, but I thought I've gotta really think of some clever concepts for this shoot because he's gonna be tough. So I hit the Google monster, and I Googled and Googled and Googled, and I found out that he had a passion for the banjo. He loves all things French, français, and he worked at Disneyland when he was a kid. Bingo, Disneyland. So I had a hook. As I explained, I always get to a photo shoot 2 hours early, so I was there setting up. We were listening to Bob Marley, relaxed. I had my concepts. Again, he comes an hour early. What's with these guys? He comes in and he comes straight up to me and he says, no, I don't like the music. Turn off the music. And I said, well, welcome, Mr. Martin. I'm so happy you're here. Here's where you're going to be setting up. By the way, you are an hour early. And then I ran, recollected myself. I thought, well, this has gotten off on a bad foot. We jumped into the shoot. I thought, come and stand on the gray background. And then I thought, here I go. Here's a Mickey Mouse watch. You know, he, get it? He's like, I understand. He put on the watch. I took a few pictures. All right, now I had something for the client. That was a relief because if I didn't get this shoot back on track, at least I had something, because you must get what your client wants first. Let's say you're shooting a wedding. Please get a picture of the bride, like pronto. You can go around with the buffet after, but it is about the bride. So after the watch, I thought, oh man, I've really got to like warm this dude up. How about the banjo? A shot I was literally not interested in. He started strumming. Okay, I thought, well, this could maybe I could sell this to him as his album cover or something. Then he said, hey, go get my hat to somebody. So somebody went and got his hat. And I thought, oh, I know a funny idea. Why don't we put the hat on the floor in the front, and then the story is like Steve Martin is a street busker. I was laughing like, ha, 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 ha. He wasn't really laughing. Back to the gray wall, Mr. Martin, and I handed him some Mickey Mouse balloons that we had gotten. Now, he looked at me hard. I thought, okay, I've been keeping the shoot moving fast. We're getting on the same wavelength. Then he started to animate. He loved the balloons. I thought, this is the guy that's like, you know, the joke, like the jerk. Like, this is something I recognize. I'm in. Now, time for the kill. The shot I really wanted. Quick, I took the balloon, I gave him the tie balloon. I thought this would be the perfect cover for this magazine. We finished early. On his way out, he came up to me and he said, oh, by the way, my wife and I gave all your books as Christmas presents. Oh. I said, thank you. He left. And all I kept thinking was, bless the research. Thank goodness I researched. I didn't try to be clever. I didn't try to be funny. Thanks to my research, I got the shot. Research is essential. On an island, except we're not really on the island. It is very rude to pick favorite subjects, but I'm gonna do it. I loved Sir Ian McKellen. He was delightful, charming, interesting. He walked in, he was interested. We were supposed to shoot in this place in Times Square. It's a real theater, hangout. It's called Sardi's, the restaurant where actors are. And they go after the theater. It's okay. It's an interesting place. It was chilly outside. I thought, okay, he has 20 minutes for this photo shoot. I'll bring a backdrop, but he's doing a play in New York. He's been photographed like on Daily Mail and in the New York Post on the streets of New York. So I went early and I walked around Times Square. It was a chilly day, and I found this perfect sort of island in the middle. And I thought, if I'm worth my medal and my fettle, I'm going to get Sir Ian McKellen out here today. So he walks in with a pep in his step. He is super charming. As you know, we're already been there for 2 hours. We have our 3 setups, organized. He definitely was very pleased by my male assistants. He was having a good time checking them out. We quickly went through the shots. Mr. Sit in front of your picture at Sardi's, please. How about in front of the backdrop? Cup of tea, your English, wink, wink, nod, nod. How about a serious face? Because you are a very, very famous actor. I started to chat with the PR agent. She was coming on board. I also knew that without her on my side and without him on my side, we weren't getting outside. Lots of sides there. So I took her and I said, listen, there's this one shot. We've only been shooting for 12 minutes. I technically have 8 more. Do you think, will you come with me on this idea? I promise you it will work. Okay, Melanie, sure. Out we went. I said, Mr. McKellen, will you come with me outside? He said, I would love to. He grabbed his leather jacket. We ran out into the middle of Times Square, and he lit up a cigarette. He was leaning on that kind of, divider. People were wandering by saying, hi, Magneto, from the X-Men. I hadn't seen the movie. I hadn't seen that movie either. It's on my list next to Footloose. So we were standing on this island. My assistant was holding a light. He was resting. It felt so right, and it would not have happened without the collaboration. Because I spoke very nicely to the PR person, I got her on my side. Again, back to the bone. It's the trust. It's the exchange. It's not about me taking the photos. It's about all of the people together in this moment, right? So we've talked about respect and rapport. We've talked about being prepared. We've talked about being nimble, doing your research, collaborating. But what is the glue that binds this all together? It's the me. It's what's within you. Now, please put down your phones, not that you can see. You can't Google this. There are no data points. I can't prove this. But I can tell you that inside you, you know what interests you. You know what you're passionate about. Is it pandas? Is it soccer? Is it food? What is it that you are interested in? Go home, please. Take a piece of paper and write it down, because that is where your unique lens will come through. You cannot learn that in a manual. It is what will make your work truly the exception. What's your passion? For me, I have, as you heard earlier, played with my food. I love the intersection of art and food. So what did I do? I went out, I bought some pizzas, some Negronis, and I played with the food. I didn't have a photo assistant, I didn't have a light. I got a pizza and I stood there and I thought, this brings me joy. This interests me. I love this. I try to spend a lot of my, 30% of my time giving back with my photography because I definitely cannot pay $10,000 for a charity table. So this project was for Operation Smile, and I went to 8 countries on missions with them to help amplify their voices about this quick surgery that can repair a cleft lip and palate and send these kids onto an incredible future. That interested me. That didn't feel like work. That felt like within me, all I wanted to do was share their stories. So we all went through, the pandemic. I had my first really big exhibition, which was gonna be in my hometown of Chicago, long time ago home. My dad was gonna come, and then of course, the pandemic. We were all, at a standstill. Didn't know what to do. I'm an extrovert. I mean, I looked at my fiance and I was like, whoa, this is gonna be a test. So what did I do? I put my hazmat suit on and I went out. I went and showed the people on Instagram and I documented what I saw in a city that I'm passionate about. I love New York City. I'm so grateful to be in New York City. I went on the subway, obviously, it was empty. I walked across the Brooklyn Bridge, both for my steps and, I needed to get those 10,000 steps. I visited my favorite restaurants just to see what kind of state they were left in. Because I had just been to the Odeon restaurant and now it had a padlock in front of it. I went over to Buvette, or actually that's Edwards. It looks like they just left. I mean, they just left. I couldn't believe what I saw in front of me. Grand Central Station, empty. I picked up my camera and I took pictures because within me, I knew that this is how I needed to respond because I was interested, I was passionate, I was feeling it. I heard these huge noises outside. Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter. There was a social justice movement happening right out there. What did I do? Picked up my camera. Because it wasn't time to stop. It was time to hit the streets, show what was going on, show what I saw, what I felt. I felt the rage. I felt the pain. And to me, it's not different than pizza because a story is a story and it's how I look at it. It's not an imitated story. It's a story that I see. So then there was looting. They were burning out the cars at Bloomingdale's. In fact, I was just at Bloomingdale's yesterday and it didn't look like that, did it, Ava? I knew that I would roar on. So this has been my life in pictures so far. I'm going to correct the title, which was actually called My Life in Pictures, because I feel like I am just getting started. And I have so many more stories to share, just like you do, because they live within us, and we owe it to our subjects, to the people that we photograph, and to ourselves. Because if we don't take the pictures, who will? So thank you so much for coming.